Good morning out there, all of our awesome viewers. We're glad that you're with us today. We are starting out first thing on a Wednesday morning, getting this ready for you. We've already had one of our really faithful listeners reach out and say they are waiting anxiously for this podcast to drop. So we got to get this thing going and get
Episode 110.
Yes, 110. That's pretty exciting.
Who thought this train wreck would last 109 more episodes than number one?
Who thought this train wreck of a marriage would last 19 years?
Certainly not I.
I mean,
but
you know,
here we are.
Miracles happen. That's what we know.
They do.
So yeah, here we are. We're getting ready to go. How do you feel today?
I feel ready to go.
Good. You were at the gym at 5 a.m. this morning.
Yep.
Getting ready for this podcast.
Yep.
Pumping iron.
Had to. Little eye candy for all our viewers out there.
I mean, yes. It sure is.
You know it's sad when you flex and your arm does, like your muscle goes whoop.
Oh, that's more like me than you. You look great. All right. Are you ready to get into this podcast?
I am not.
Oh.
I got some things I need to get off my chest.
Okay.
All right. I was looking for mugs.
Why?
The why doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I found my mug that I have to get.
Okay.
And the mug says this is probably queso.
That is perfect for you. And if you're having anything in a mug, it probably is queso.
But I realize I have an addiction and I just need to get it out there.
Okay.
I am addicted to queso. Had queso last night. I woke up this morning dreaming about queso. And I literally live my life to get that next hit of queso.
You have a problem.
I do have a problem.
It's a good thing you go to the gym or else you'd be huge.
I know. I really want to go to Chewy's and get their queso with the ground beef in it. That's what I want right now.
I do not like their queso, but I'm glad you do.
So we need to get this episode over with so I can go find some queso.
We don't even have a Chewy's anywhere near here, so you're not going
Orlando
to
it
today.
is.
You are not going to Orlando to get queso.
But where's your favorite place to get queso? Maybe it's a place I haven't tried yet, and I really have to try.
Mine is Cantina Louise, which is where we were last night.
Yeah. So
But I don't eat very much queso. I just steal a couple dips of yours.
take and give me your recommendations. I will try them all, and I'll let you know which is the best.
This could be bad. Get started, babe.
Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The family meeting is a show that's all about queso. We're the Ostracamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Lysandra.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 110 of the Family Meeting Podcast.
Good morning, everybody. It's a great day.
It's a great day. We are together. We get to do our favorite thing podcast together.
Well, second favorite thing. I think we talked about our favorite thing last time.
Oh my. Well, that's not what this episode's about, so we got to keep on going forward. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about socioeconomic status. Isn't that one of your favorite topics?
Actually, it is.
Oh, explain.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I really have no idea what you're talking about right now, so
Okay. Well,
I'm hoping you'll explain it for me so that I can participate in the conversation this
that
morning.
sounds good. So for Thomas and any other listeners who are new to this topic, socioeconomic status encompasses not just income, but also educational attainment, financial security, and subjective perceptions of social status and social class. Okay? So it's all about where you fall on the totem pole in our society.
Okay, I know where I fall, and it's on the bottom.
It is. And
Wow, thanks.
Sorry,
You're like,
baby.
yes, you are definitely on the bottom of that totem pole.
We are pretty low on the totem pole of socioeconomic status. But you know what? It's pretty happy down here on the bottom.
Not much to worry about when you don't have a lot.
That is true. That is true. We're very
And
happy
although we
people.
don't have a lot, it's you still have to put things in perspective globally.
Absolutely.
That when we're talking about Americans, even those at the bottom, for the most part, are more wealthy than most of the people who have lived on this planet ever. So
true.
it puts a lot of things in perspective, and we joke about that, but we also understand how blessed that we are by God to live in this country at this time. And we try not to take it for granted.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a Bible verse that right away pops into my mind. Comparing themselves among themselves, they are not wise. And that's really what socioeconomic status is. It's like, okay, who's richer than me? Who's poorer than me? Who's higher educationally? Who's lower? Who has more? Who has less? It's all about comparing. And it's really kind of unhealthy.
And we've talked about this a little bit before, not necessarily in the same vein as what we're talking about today, but in our episode on Keeping Up with the Joneses.
Yes. That was a long time ago.
I don't remember what episode number out of 110 it is, but this idea of comparing yourselves, it's not wise. So.
Right. And socioeconomic status can encompass quality of life attributes as well as the opportunities and privileges afforded to people within society. So this really is a multifaceted subject. It's not simple at all. And there are heated discussions going on about this topic politically, and good people fall on both sides of the argument. You know, people who grew up in the projects can't get out of the projects. You know, there's this whole privilege and all of this stuff happening out there. Entitlement is part of this debate. And we're not hitting any of that, okay? For one thing, we're not qualified to hit any of that at all. But what we want to talk about is we want to come at this and talk about and re-examine really how you view classes, status, and success. We want to talk about how we view classes, status, and success.
Well, and the thing is, we all want our kids to be successful, right? We want them to be able to live up to their full potential. That's part of being a parent. So when you think about those things, there's really two questions that you need to answer. And the first one is, what is successful?
Yeah.
So you want your kids to be successful. To you, what does that mean?
Right.
And then secondly, how do we help them become successful? So if you never really define what successful is, then you can't develop a plan to get there. And I'm thinking, so right now I'm listening to Matthew Perry's memoirs that just came out this week. And one of the things that he touches on very early in the book is he just had this overwhelming drive to be famous. And he thought fame would fix all of the problems and all the longings and all the things that he had. Like he had his definition of what success was. And then he was able to take some steps to follow that plan. Now, for you, it might be, I want my kid to be famous. I want them to be rich. I want them to have a doctorate degree. I want them, you know, but you have to define what that is, and then how do you help them do that? And how do we achieve it, most importantly, without making them stressed out?
Yeah.
You know, and damaging them psychologically in the process. And we're going to dig a little deeper into these questions today. And first of all, ask yourself these questions, and you may be surprised by the answer you find popping into your head. How do you personally define success? How does your spouse define success? Is this a conversation that you've had before? If not, it's a conversation you need to have. Why do you each define success that way?
Yeah, why is a good question.
And a lot of times it has to do with your own upbringing.
Yes.
And the influence of your parents that they had on you, or opportunities maybe you didn't get. And
right. It could be that you totally wholeheartedly disagree with your upbringing and you want to swing the pendulum the other direction, and you define success the complete opposite way that your parents did. It's not necessarily that you're going to just go along with what your parents believed success was, although you may.
Yeah.
Good questions asked.
So even thinking about how do my parents define success? What did they push you to do or to become? And how has that affected you and your emotional health and your physical health?
Yeah, take some time to answer those questions and after thinking them through. So don't just answer flippantly. These might be some really good things to ponder and really think about. Really examine yourself and your upbringing. Your parents communicated the answers to these questions without directly saying what their opinion was. And
Well,
it has affected your viewpoint.
it has affected your viewpoint, and the answers to those questions will have an impact on your kids as well.
Right.
So we want to be able to try to fully understand how we're going to affect our kids, and what you define success as. That's going to have an impact on them, positively or negatively. Most likely both.
Yes. And what we, oh gosh. So basically it's win-lose no matter what. Like you're going to win and you're going to lose no matter what. Why try?
Hey, that's what we do as kids, right? We find what our parents did wrong. We don't necessarily always talk about the positives. We do at times talk about the positives and how they've helped us to be successful, but we often point to the negatives as well. Like, they did this wrong. They did that wrong. They didn't do this right. So I think no matter what you do as a parent, you're going to have both of those things brought up in your kids' life.
That's right. And I think one of the most important things that we do as parents is that everything we do is strategic and thought out.
Right.
We don't just well, who cares? We're just going to do this. Whatever. No, we've got to really be thinking about it. These are our kids. These are our legacy. We are affecting them. They have a heart. They have a soul. They have a mind, the spirit. What we do affects them. And what we do needs to be well thought out. It needs to be strategic. And it really needs to please God, because that's ultimately how our children are going to be the safest.
Well, and you're talking about how everything that we do makes an impact on our family, on our kids. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the lies of the devil and of our own pride says that we can make decisions and we can do things and it really only affects me. It doesn't affect the rest of my family. And it really takes me back to the book of Joshua and a man named Achan. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that story, God had told the children of Israel, when you come into Jericho and you conquer this city, you're not to take any of the treasures and the spoils of war for yourself. This first city is to be a sacrifice to me. And Achan saw some money, he saw some nice clothes, and he decided to take it for himself. And he went and dug a hole in the middle of his tent, hid all the stuff in it. He had this thought process that, hey, it's okay. It doesn't really affect anybody else. Mm-hmm. But really it did. And his family were the ones who paid the price along with him.
Right.
And that's true in our lives as well. And we have to have the understanding that the choices that we make, the things that we value, the things that even how we define success, it does have an impact on our families.
It does. And as we seek to define success, it may be that you desire to change your definition of success. So you ask yourself these questions, you figure out this is how I've been living my life up to this very moment. This is what I have always thought of as success. But maybe we realize I'm unhappy with my view of success. I don't like this view of success. I want to change it to what is real to me now, to what I really truly know is successful now that I've grown and matured. And we discussed trying to force our kids into be what we want them to be in episode 102, entitled Clone Wars. And I think sometimes we're pushing our kids to attain a level of socioeconomic success that we maybe couldn't achieve or didn't achieve. And maybe that's no longer the goal. Maybe we see that and we need to make a change. Maybe we realize I'm trying to live vicariously through them. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to stop this cycle. Or if they didn't become what we wanted them to be socially, economically, or whatever, our dreams are crushed. We can't handle the shame. There are dangers to yourself as you consider what your definition of success is. Yeah. So make sure that you have it well thought out and both spouses agree on this is what success is. This is what we're pushing our children to. This is the why behind it. And this is how we're going to accomplish it. And then make sure that you're communicating it clearly to your children.
Yeah.
Make sure that they understand clearly, no hints, no nothing like that, but just straightforward. Listen, you guys, this is what we believe success is. And if you can achieve this, this, and this, we'll be thrilled. We will be proud of you no matter what, but this is what our goals are. And then live your own life that way. Don't say one thing with your words and then your actions say something else. So you say, kids, the only thing we care about is that you love others. And then you go out and all you care about is money, 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 making that next promotion, getting that money, getting those Benjamins.
Okay, you just need to stop with whatever you were trying to do right there.
I need to stop. I'm not good at that. Because your words are saying one thing, but your actions are saying something else. So whatever you decide success is, communicate it clearly to your children and live your life that way.
And as we help you think it through, it'd be helpful to consider what are your goals for your children. So we've talked about thinking about what about success, but what is your goals for your children? You know, let's talk about motivation. Let's ask ourselves the question, the why question. And this leads us to our motivation behind why we do the thing that we do. Is your goal to have your children become professionals like you, or maybe not like you? Maybe you didn't achieve that level, so you want your kids to achieve that level. Well, why? Because that sounds successful? You know, is your goal for them to be accepted into some highly acclaimed academic institution of higher learning?
I don't know what you were trying to do right there, but you need to stop.
That was amazing, and you know it.
I love you. You are.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But why?
But why? Right.
Why is that your goal? Is your goal for your child to be wealthy? Okay. Why? Once again, there's nothing wrong with being wealthy.
Right.
But why do you want that?
I love wealthy people.
I would like to know a lot more of them. So if you are wealthy out there,
we want to be your
I am looking
friend.
for a friend. So.
But yeah, the why. That's so good.
Is your goal for your child to be respected? Okay, why? It's time for us as parents to check our motivations, because once again, it has an impact on our kids.
Please don't misunderstand us during this episode. We're not saying it's wrong to achieve a higher level of status. We're not saying that it's wrong to want that for your children, but it is important to understand why you want that. And here's a little more information too. So as we talk about socioeconomic status, you know, us being, like we said, lower on that totem pole, that's really not one of our most important goals for our children. I'd be thrilled for them if they became doctors, if they became executives. I'd be thrilled for them. That is not my goal for them.
I would love for them to become millionaires.
Yeah, that sounds great. But that is not at all our goal or what we're pushing them to. However, there are huge benefits to having a higher socioeconomic status. And so we want to share that with you as well. So here's a little information. Social and economic factors such as income, education, employment, community safety, and social supports can significantly affect how well and how long we live. So there's kind of the pro there. These factors affect our ability to make healthy choices because you're educated, afford medical care, you have the money to do it, good housing, you have the money to do it, manage stress, maybe pay for that therapist or whatever, or, you know, have the gym membership or whatever it is, and more. So there are benefits for sure to having a higher socioeconomic status.
Well, and just to kind of help you understand, we can take it down to the bare bones, you know, going back, talking about a global perspective. Most of the issues that are caused in third world countries have to do with not having clean drinking water. You know, kids dying young. A lot of it has to do with kids not having access to clean drinking water. So once again, that's just to kind of help us to understand what Lysandra is talking about, that these things do have a factor. So once again, it's not a negative thing to want to attain that, but what's your motivation behind it? The social and economic opportunities we have, such as good schools, stable jobs, and strong social networks, are foundational to achieving long and healthy lives. You know, for example, employment provides income that shapes choices about housing, education, childcare, food, medical care, and more. And I think about our own personal journey since we've got married. As far as jobs and income is concerned, you know, how much income you have dictates a lot of these choices and what you can do in these different areas. Can we take care of certain medical needs that they're not necessarily life-threatening, but do they cause ongoing issues? Yes. Do we have the money to be able to take care of that? And so having these conversations, they do have an impact. In contrast, unemployment limits these choices and the ability to accumulate savings and assets that can help cushion in times of economic distress. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of the argument politically you have is having opportunities for all people to be able to have the ability to get into some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So
get the help they need. So thinking about goals and success and the why, the motivation, here's some goals that are positive for any parents, and they don't really have anything to do with socioeconomic success. So maybe that's not the track your child is headed to. There are awesome goals and awesome successes that they can have no matter where they fall on that ladder. Our goals may include raising well-adjusted, self-sufficient, confident adults who love Jesus and follow him. Adults who love what they do, no matter what that is. Okay? We need people at every rung of the ladder on this economic scale. We need people everywhere. And no matter what the lowest of the low jobs you think of to the highest of the high, everyone's important and has the same value. But I want my kids to love what they do. I don't want my kids to hate going to work.
Well, and you touch on something that's kind of important here, because we do need people in all walks of life, mm-hmm. in all positions. And to have this understanding that just because we attain a certain level, that's not necessarily going to make us happy.
No.
And once again, I'm going back to this book because I'm just going through it now. But Matthew Perry talks about the fact, as I mentioned, he wanted fame.
He got it.
So he had all this stuff, and he talks about the fact that he was on the #1 show in the world. He was dating Julia Roberts at the time. He had fame, he had money, he literally had everything, mm-hmm. and he said, that didn't make me happy. Mm-hmm. And so he tried in other ways, alcohol and drugs and different things to be happy. Mm-hmm. So where you are at, whatever walk of life you have, being able to find happiness in that is so valuable.
Absolutely. We also want our kids to understand they have to work hard to achieve their goals and dreams. We want them to understand nothing should be handed to them. We don't want them to feel entitled. And there's nothing wrong with parents who dream of academic and financial success for your children. It's good to want our kids to become noble, honorable citizens who make substantial contributions to the world, but there are a variety of ways for them to do that. It doesn't hinge on them having socioeconomic success. Many parents are pressuring their kids to become successful, and they're measuring their success or failure. And what is one way that seems to be a pretty big way, I would say the majority of the way, that a lot of parents are measuring their children's success or failure?
Oh, their grades, for sure.
Yeah, their grades in school, right? We all want our kids to get good grades because it's like, if you don't get good grades in kindergarten, you're never going to make it into Harvard. Which obviously that's an extreme, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's funny because even on these shows, like there are different shows where they're talking about like, I just need my kid to get into this right preschool because it's on the path to higher learning or whatever.
Well, and I think sometimes, I think oftentimes it is, we want what's best for our kids and we want them to have all the opportunities. But mm-hmm. a lot of the times it's just flat out our own pride. Mm-hmm. Because no one puts a bumper sticker on their car that says, my kid is flunking everything, right?
But they're trying their best.
Yeah. My kid's an honor roll at fill-in-the-blank school.
Yeah.
So some of it has to do with our own personal pride as well. Yeah. And there is a lot of pressure from our culture on parents to make sure your kids perform well in school. And once again, this episode is not about what you choose to do for schooling.
No.
But this pressure results in you often placing a great deal of pressure on your children to perform well and get good grades, be on honor roll, participate in all these extracurricular activities because you have to fill out this resume.
Right.
And our children can feel when they're being expected to meet a standard which is unreasonable for them to meet.
And yeah, they can give up.
You know, if you have expectations for your kid academically, and let's just face it, they're not Harvard material, but you will only be happy if they go to Harvard. Man, that's a lot of weight for a child to bear. Mm-hmm. And when we pressure our children to be the best, you know, better than everybody else, get the best grades, get into the best school, and succeed in extracurricular activities that we deem important, they can suffer a great deal emotionally and even physically.
Yeah.
And they can feel when we as parents impose on them an external measure of their value, including if it's just implied.
That's right. And it is amazing, even to me in our family, where in my opinion, we don't even place that much value on grades. Like, I am proud of them when they get A's, and I always tell them and all that stuff. But even our kids, some of them, have gotten emotional stress over school and thinking that they have to measure up to some standard. And that has resulted in physical ailments. Mm-hmm. Like, it has come out in headaches, muscle aches, of course, crying and stuff like that. Like,
lots of tears around here about schoolwork.
Yes, a homeschool family that cries a lot. Yay. But you know what I'm saying? So it really can come out emotionally and physically. And Thomas and I like to require one thing from our kids when it comes to school and extracurriculars. The one thing we require is their best.
Well, and you notice the way that's phrased. We don't require them to be the best.
No.
We require for them to do their best. Mm-hmm. So if their best is an A in a subject, that's what we want them to get and what we want them to work for and strive for. If their best is a C, then that's what we want for them to work and strive for.
Mm-hmm. And we don't even require them to have the same standard among the four of them. Isabella's best does not look the same as Catherine's best. Catherine's best does not look the same as Violet's best. Violet's best does not look the same as Abigail's best.
Did you put them in order of importance? How did you just measure the kids there?
Oh, I went random. I mean, I think I went random. Subconsciously? What do you think I did?
Just curious. I don't know. I'm asking. I've never heard you name our daughters in that order before, so I was curious.
I was just trying to mix it up. I wasn't trying to go in age range, so I tried to be random.
Okay.
But the point is that each of our children have a different best that they can do.
In different areas.
In different areas. That's right. Some are much more successful in one area than in a different. So as long as they gave it their best at the end of the game, at the end of the course, as long as they gave their very best, I don't care how they succeeded or failed according to social standards.
Well, and you talk about doing their best in whatever. So, and we've talked about this before, how that our kids have not been involved in sports before, and this was their very first year in volleyball playing for a team. And there were times where during the game you could see, like, I know my daughters very well, and I know when they're giving their best or not. Mm-hmm. And you could tell there were times where they felt defeated before a game was ever over, and they just weren't into it that much. And so we had conversations about that. Like, hey, do your best. If you do your best and you lose, that's fine. But it's not okay for you to give up and not try and not give your all for yourself or your teammates.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We desire to encourage effort. So that's what we encourage. We encourage effort. We try to praise our children when we see them doing their best and doing it with a good attitude as well. We can applaud their desire to keep trying when they fail, rather than shaming them when they fail. And these are aspects of our children's success that cannot be calculated by grades or scores. Okay, work ethic. How's their work ethic? Perseverance, impacting others positively, creative vision, connection with people, personal insight and personal growth. And for this, a great example would be, like Thomas mentioned, volleyball. They were excellent. in volleyball for their first time on a team, for only playing for a year. Like, I was so pleased with their athletic ability. However, the thing that pleased me the most is when other parents came to us and said, "You would not believe the team spirit last year. Your girls changed the spirit of the team because of their positivity." Oh my gosh, I like melted. To me, that is success.
Yeah. Well, and it was just interesting to watch the first few games. You could tell they were not gelling as a team. You had girls like pointing blame at each other after every single point. And then Isabella, she started getting the girls after every single play to just, we're all coming to the center of our half of the court, and we're going to do a little team huddle after every single play. And it was like this small adjustment to develop this team unity, that we're not out for one another. Not out for myself. Like, this is a team thing. And I was so proud of her.
Yes.
For that, more than I was the fact that she did phenomenal on the court as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it changed from, "Why weren't you there? That was yours," to "Good try. Next time."
Yep.
You know, so, to some positivity and encouragement. So focus on those good things, for sure.
And if your child fails an important test or blows the big interview with a big paycheck, focus on their positive qualities that are specific to them. We all fail at things.
Yes.
We've all been in situations where we've blown opportunities, where we didn't do the right thing. It didn't come out how we wanted. It's going to happen in life. So try to focus in on, what are they doing right? That's what they need in that moment. And then there's opportunities to come and say, all right, how can maybe we improve in some of these other areas? But how are they making a positive impact on their peers and others? And bring those aspects out and encourage them in those areas. Your child has a gift, whether or not that thing will help them achieve high socioeconomic success. So bring those areas to light.
Yeah. Every child is gifted. It's just, what way is your child gifted? It might not be the traditional way society says this is a gift, but you've got to find how your child is gifted and focus on that.
So is she gifted in art? Does she have a knack for a particular sport? Is he a natural mediator? You know, does she impart wisdom to her peers? Encourage and praise those gifts, because your child is extremely gifted and talented in some area. It may not be the area that you want them to be in. It may not live up to whatever, lofty goals you might have for them. But they have, each one of our kids, as individuals, are extremely blessed and talented in a lot of different ways.
And remove limits on your love. Oh my goodness. We did a whole episode on this back a while ago about unconditional love and how important that is. And you will hear us bring this up in many episodes from then till now and in the future, because this is something that we want to constantly remind you of. There should be no limits on your love. Don't treat your child differently when they succeed or when they fail. If you have a child who succeeds and a child who fails at the same time, those children should both be experiencing your love in the same way. All right. Now, there may need to be consequences for lack of effort or apathy or bad attitudes. Okay. Sure. Yes, we're gonna recognize those things. We're gonna correct them. But parental love should be unchanging based on performance. Performance doesn't change my love for you. I love you more when you measure up to my standards or our culture standards. This is a toxic message to send to your children. So don't be sending that message. Love unconditionally.
Well, and that's the way that God loves each and every one of us.
Oh, I'm so thankful.
We don't have to perform to get more of God's love. God loves you unconditionally. And we are to demonstrate that love to our kids and to love them unconditionally. They're going to fail. They're going to make mistakes. They're They're going to fall short sometimes of what we hope that they will become. But that should not change our love for them. Mm-hmm. And so what we need to do is we need to take the pressure off of ourselves to produce socioeconomic success. You know, if your child is not a success by our culture's social and economic guidelines and expectations, come to terms with it and just let it go.
Yeah.
Making tons of money will not make your child happy, just as it won't make you happy.
Oh, so true.
Climbing the social ladder won't make your child happy, just like it's not going to make you happy either. Our joy comes from Jesus. Living in a right relationship with God brings peace, joy, and happiness. And if you've been pushing your child toward the wrong goals or the right goals with the wrong motivations, be honest with your children about that. Mm-hmm. And you may have to have some hard conversations and apologize for it. Man, I've been pushing you towards this wrong goal, or I've had the right goal. I think it's the right thing for us to do, but I've gone about it the wrong way. So apologize, ask for forgiveness. Describe your new goals or your new definition of success. Then forgive yourself. Don't live in the past or torture yourself by reliving in your mind your failures to love unconditionally. Don't punish yourself for pushing your child toward the wrong goal. Ask God for forgiveness. Ask your child for forgiveness. And forgive yourself.
Maybe you're still struggling with the feeling of being ashamed of your child's low grades, unimportant job, by cultural standards or whatever else. If you find that you cannot move past the sense of shame and guilt you feel over the lack of your child's success, you may discover that the shame you're feeling over your child's failure is actually rooted in a deeper wound that you experienced long before you became a parent. Maybe it was some pressure that your parent put on you, or snide comments that your parents made toward your job and your failure or success, whether it be in school, in extracurriculars, or in your professional life. Listen, you weren't perfectly parented.
No.
None of us were.
No.
And none of us are perfect parents. Yes, you aren't perfect parents. Oh my gosh. The hosts of the Family Meeting podcast are not perfect parents?
One of us is and one of us isn't. We'll let our listeners do a poll and figure out who they think is who.
I think this is a bad idea. Okay, so we aren't perfect parents, yet we can still find success in life when we release ourselves from the burden of measuring up to numbers and scores. And we can allow our children to have our attention, our support, our love, no matter what, not based on society's viewpoint and definition of success.
And so I want you to go back to your definition of success. Is it a number in the bank, a class level, a position, or a paycheck? Is your definition of success parents who raise successful children? Look at whether or not you feel successful yourself. Is your lack of personal success transferring onto your children? Maybe what you need right now is to accept how far you've come in life.
Yeah.
Accept your own socioeconomic success. Come to terms with the house you have, the amount in your savings account, the position you hold professionally, the view your parents have of your success or lack thereof.
Maybe what you need to hear right now is that you've done well. I'm talking to you, listener. You've done well. You are good enough. You aren't a failure. You are loved and accepted by God. I'm going to say that again because I want to make sure everybody gets that and grasps it. You are loved and accepted by God. He values you. If you're doing your best, that's enough. If you're following Jesus, loving God, and loving others, you've achieved God's definition of success for you. Accept that love that He has for you.
So we want you to have your family meeting tonight and just talk about your definition of success with your family and share your why. Why is that your view of success? Share your motivation. Like, why do you want your children to achieve this level or that level? And redefine success if needed and why. And maybe it's a good question to stop and ask your kids. Like, how do you view success? And why do you view success that way? Is it something that I've pressured you about? Is it something culture's pressuring you towards? Like getting them to think through the process at an early age of the why behind it can be so valuable for them as you all make plans for the future together and help them with their own futures. And one of the things that you really need to spend some time doing is assuring your children of your unconditional love for them. Like, no matter where you go in life, no matter what you do, no matter what you become, mom and dad love you. Mm-hmm. They support you. They're here for you. And making sure that they know and understand that. And it's never in doubt or never in question. If they fail the big test, they're not worried about whether mom or dad love me. Mm-hmm. They know that. And maybe examine if you're struggling to forgive yourself from past failures. And that's a conversation to have with your family as well. Is, man, you know what? I've failed in some areas, and I'm having a really hard time getting over it and forgiving myself for this. So having some of these open conversations with your family tonight will help you to be able to move forward and with developing a plan of success that's right for your children.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information to be helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. Shoot us a text or a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we talk about the worst marriage habits. So basically, I'm going to follow Thomas around with a pad of paper and a notepad and a pen, and I'm going to write down all the things he does, and then we'll share that with you next week.
You might want to get a couple pads of paper.
But we're going to share some of the worst habits you can have in your marriage. You might even spot some of your own habits that need to get the boot.
Lysandra's perfect, so I won't have anything of hers to share with you.
You are lying.
I never lie.
You look at me through love-colored goggles. It's so nice.
I got no goggles on. People in YouTube land that have subscribed, they can look at my eyes right now and see no goggles.
You have very pretty eyes.
So, a little plug there. Go subscribe to YouTube.
Right.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. Well done.
Thank you. You too. Now you know all about socioeconomic success.
I do. And I realize I have it all.
Yes, you do.
If I have you, I have it all.
Yes. I am your socioeconomic success.
Yes. Because marrying a beautiful woman puts you right to the top.
Trophy wife.
Eat your hearts out.
I saw a Halloween costume that was a trophy wife. What did the guy? I can't remember what the guy was dressed as. Anyway, and then he had the wife on his arm that was like dressed like a trophy.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it was cute.
That's our costume idea for next year.
Mm-hmm. When have you ever dressed up for Halloween ever?
Yeah, one time.
One time. And who were you?
Han Solo.
And I was Leia. It was fun. It was very fun. But you know what? It takes a lot of effort and it can take a lot of money unless you have the stuff laying around.
So 2 days ago was Halloween, and that reminds me. I need to go dig through my kids' candy and pick out the good stuff. So we're going to have to let you go.
Catch you later.
Later.